Hi everyone, I'm Jessica, as you might know because you've probably watched the documentary, so I've been on your screen for 20 minutes recently. Um, anyway, I am just blown away by the response to Finding Fukue. Um, this film, I never anticipated this kind of reaction to it, and it's very, very personal for me. Obviously, I'm showing myself at very emotional moments and things like that, and I I can't express how much you taking the time to watch it means to me, and how much your comments, really touch me, and I just really appreciate it a lot. And just I guess it's funny because I cried through the whole thing, so then of course, when I watched it, finally I cried a bunch again, and I thought maybe I was just crying because it was just me watching me be emotional, so of course I would cry again. But it looks like most of you guys are crying too, but kind of happy tears. So I guess I should say now, spoiler alert. So I wanted to answer some questions that people had from the YouTube comments because there was so many cool questions. So I'm going to do that. And if you haven't watched it yet, then maybe you shouldn't watch this part because I might talk about things that happened that you don't want to know about yet in the thing. Okay, so now I'm looking over at the questions. So, one that, let me see here. Sorry, super not organized over here. Well, one of the questions was about, which I kind of answered on in the comments, was about why are we sending letters to each other still, if there's phones and internet and all that. And the truth is that our history is in letter writing, and I have a really positive association with writing letters because you can put your feeling into it. You can express your feeling through your words. You could draw little pictures. You can use different colored pens. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you can put a flower that you're not supposed to send across the border into your letter and stuff like that. Really making someone feel your intention when you write them this, when you're thinking about them and writing to them, as much more than, say, typing. But Fukue and I, we do type back and forth, and that's how we keep in touch. And yes, we are still in touch, and she loved the movie too, which is good because I want her to love the movie. So anyway, that was the answer to the question about letters because they're special, and if you've never written letters to someone, it's something you should probably do. It's really, really cool to get a letter in the mail from a friend. Okay, let me see here. Someone asked a question about me speaking Japanese. So when my family was in Japan, we were, the town we lived in, as you might have heard in the early part of the documentary, was a very small town. And I mean, they had just gotten a sewage system the year before we got there. They still had all sorts of old school traditions, and there was certainly no one who spoke English, or not more than one or two people who could speak English well enough. So there was definitely no English-speaking school. So we were enrolled in the local schools, which were all in Japanese, and we went to classes from the day after that we arrived in Japan. We were just in class, not exactly understanding what was going on because we didn't speak the language yet. Although, to my parents' credit, my mother certainly tried to do Japanese lessons with us before we went, but we were being little jerks about it, and we felt like we hadn't chosen to go to Japan, so why should we spend this energy on learning Japanese before we got there? We'd figure it out. But when we got there, we were like, oh, I wish I knew some Japanese. So anyway, by, I would say, 2 months into it, both my sister and I were child fluent, which is fluency still, and we're doing all of our classes in Japanese and participating. And at the same time, we were also doing Canadian correspondence course, so we could go into our next grades when we came back. So it was kind of double school there. So yeah, so I still speak Japanese. I lost it for a time, and but it was just buried deep inside, and so then I kind of like brought it back up again when I first went back to Japan in 2005 or so. That was the first time after I had lived there as a kid that I went back. And by the way, I did look for Fukue when I was there as well, and I was unsuccessful. Did a variety of things, and yeah, came up short. So I actually thought it wouldn't happen for sure. But anyway, yeah, so I kind of got it back and then expanded on it. And now I've been on tour in Japan several times with my group, Jessica Stewart Few, and I've learned to speak about, you know, music and my compositional process and talk from the stage to the audience and all of this kind of stuff. I've learned all that specific vocabulary. So I have like child fluency Japanese plus specialized other kind of topics. Anyway, you probably don't find this that riveting or something, so I'm gonna call it at those two questions. But anyway, if you have other questions, I'm happy to respond to them. And again, thank you so much for watching and for sharing. And that song that plays at the credits at the end of the film is, I call it Fukue's Theme Part 1, and I hope to be releasing that sometime soon. And it's a song that I wrote inspired by a dream that Fukue said she had, a recurring dream she had, including me, in which I was in her dream, is what I meant. But it's not shown in the movie, and that part of her interview wasn't shown, but that's what inspired the lyrics and the mood of that song. So anyway, keep your eyes open for that. Feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Maybe I'll do little videos like this more often if I have the reason to. So let me know if you have any other questions, and happy viewing, and have a wonderful weekend.